all streams out.
Hi, everyone. We're live. Okay. Let me.
Participants.
Cool. Now live on
There we
YouTube.
go. People coming into Zoom here, and we are on YouTube.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so the cap for attendance in the Zoom room is 100, and we'll see if we hit that. And then everybody else, if they can't make it, can be on YouTube. So we're live on YouTube as well. And yeah. How's everybody doing? How are you doing, Curtis?
I'm doing great. I'm just putting in an updated link into our YouTube video there. And I think that's good. And I'm just, okay, there we go. Now I got chat on YouTube. Hey, people on YouTube, how you guys doing? 85 people coming in, popping in. Hey, El Paso, Texas. Sydney, Australia, coming in. Hey, Paul, how you doing, brother? Right on, people coming in. Luke, is my audio still good for you?
Yeah, audio's great.
Okay.
Yeah, so tell everyone where you're from, and we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk all about how to grow and sell microgreens tonight, and answer all your questions. We'll shoot to keep it short. We know this is dinner time for a lot of folks, so if we can keep it to inside of an hour, it's 5 o'clock Pacific time, so keep it to 6 o'clock and change from there.
Yeah, we got people coming in from all over the world. Belkis from Colorado. I'm going to be in Colorado in July. Very excited about coming down there. Hey, Perth, Australia. That is a long ways from here. Emily from Idaho, welcome. I love Idaho. Ottawa. Egypt. Hey, hey.
All right.
What's the time in Egypt? Someone coming in from Terrace, BC, Chicago, Edmonton, Chicago. A couple from Chicago. San Jose. Right on. Santiago, Chile. Cool. I would love to go down there. Nashville. I love Nashville.
New Brunswick, Canada.
Caribbean. It's 3 a.m. in Egypt right now. We got Alexandra from Miami. Ajit from Pune, India. Okay. Oh, we got a pretty big cross section of people here. This is awesome. So, Luke, what do you want to do first?
Oh man!
Hey, for those of you, real quick, who are tuning in on YouTube, this other guy you see here with me is Luke Callahan, and Luke runs the Small Farm Academy, where I have my online courses hosted. So Luke handles kind of all the back end stuff to run these courses. So if you're ever corresponding with us for any of my online courses, you're probably talking to Luke.
Hey, everybody. Great to see everyone here. So we've got some folks here in the Zoom webinar room, and then a lot of folks here in the YouTube. So we'll be going back and forth with the chat. And we got a lot of good ground to cover. So, you know, again, we'll be shooting to be here for an hour, get it done in an hour. If we
got a bit of lag there. I hope that's nothing serious. Lost you. Can you guys still hear me? Luke kind of froze out for a second there. Okay, well, anyways, until Luke comes back, you know, maybe I'll answer some questions. Well, what we're going to do in this webinar today is I'm just going to basically talk to you guys about microgreens. And hopefully Luke comes back, because Luke is going to show you guys like what's inside the course. And hopefully we can do this without having to restart this thing, because he's out. It looks like I'm still on YouTube though. I still hear, looks like it's just, sorry, I'm texting with Luke for a second here. Just join back in. Yeah, I think I can still, so you guys in the Zoom webinar, you can still hear me. Hey, okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just kind of carry, I'll just carry on the show, and hopefully Luke can join back with us. I will as soon as it lets me. Okay, he's waiting. He might have to call tech support. But yeah, so I have our Microgreens online course is up now and it's live. And so this video isn't necessarily here to sell you on the course. We're going to bring you some value. And if you think you want to know more, you can join the Microgreens course. It's an awesome course. It runs for 5 weeks. The official start is next week, and it runs 5 weeks, but you have access to the content forever. So the reason we run it as a 5-week thing is so that during that time I'm in there and Luke and I are in there, and you can ask us questions. So there's sort of a live element to it. And but you have access to the content forever. And if you can't make the webinars, it doesn't matter. They're recorded and you can go back. It's just you wouldn't have been there live to ask me questions, but there's other ways to do that. So we have a Facebook group set up for the course. I'm actually no longer on Facebook. I've erased myself from Facebook, but we can still compile if people are in the Facebook group asking questions and stuff like that, we can still compile that stuff and get that stuff to me, and I can still answer those questions. So my plan is to answer those things in the webinar. And so all of my responses will be recorded there. And so there's a way for you to still engage with me. I'm just not on Facebook any longer. So what I want to do here is just show you guys a little bit. I got a few slides here. There's not a ton. People asking about payment plans. Yes, there are payment plans for it. You'll have to, Luke will be able to answer that specifically because he handles all that back end stuff. Yeah, there is. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think you can go in 4 payments or something like that. So there's options there. So no stresses there. And he has a video on field microgreens. I was looking at some of you guys' questions here. Yeah, can you grow microgreens outside? Yeah, you sure can. And yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen with you guys for a second and show you some interesting slides. So in this course, let's text back to Luke here. In this course, we basically show you guys the whole production to marketing plan of microgreens, like everything from how do you start your first crop, how do you go and find customers, and how do you engage with those customers, build rapport, keep them coming back, and then how that all ties back into your production. We cover a lot of different crops. You know, we really try to get people to do as many of the simple crops that are more commodity based, and not commodity as in soybean and corn. We call them commodity crops. Like I got some pea shoots and behind me. I don't have any sunflower shoots, but that would be another one that we do a lot of. And we just want to show people, like, you know, grow what sells first, focus on that, and then introduce other stuff as you can. So I'm just gonna share my screen here for a second. Share, here we go. Okay, right there, you can see this is this greenhouse. Like my farm is on a little bit of a hiatus right now. And but you guys have known me for many years. If you've been following me on YouTube, and you know the kind of stuff I've done. And this is what the kind of production we had in here. We were producing hundreds of flats of microgreens a week. And we could scale this because we had a lot of space to do so. So this is, one level of growing microgreens, but it's not the only way to do it. There's many different ways to do this. Microgreens can essentially grow anywhere, but it is definitely better to be growing microgreens inside, at least in a greenhouse. The main reason for that is they're an expensive crop to produce. You use a lot of seed, and if you are losing seed, you're really losing money. So it's important to have a controlled environment, though there are ways to do field microgreens. But we don't really touch on that in the course because, frankly, it's not complicated at all. It's very simple. I have multiple YouTube videos on it about it, actually. So if you're curious about that, you can check that out. But this course, we really focus on the details of all these crops, where to sell them, the densities you plant them at, how much you can expect to harvest from them, all that kind of stuff. And so that's one place you can go. And you can really scale microgreens as large as you want. The sky's the limit. The only limiting factor is who's going to buy it and how much are they going to buy. And so I've been to microgreen operations. I have a YouTube video with a farm called Kind Organics out of Ontario, and they are producing over 2,000 flats of microgreens a week. So if you're going to produce that much, you got to move that product. Okay, it looks like Luke's back now. That's great. Your audio is, here, let me unmute you. Unmute audio. You should be able to do that, Luke. There he is. And so those guys are producing 2,000 flats a week. So that's huge. That means if you're going to produce that much product, you've got to move that to different places. So they were delivering to a bunch of different farmers markets. They were selling to chefs. They were in retail grocery stores. See, Falcon One's question is who buys microgreens? That's the question. That's what we're answering right now. And whereas if you go on the smaller scale, you don't have to have as many market streams, and maybe you can be a little bit more specialized. But if you're certainly going to produce, in the thousands of flats a week, you're going to be moving to many different market streams. So when I started out, this is literally how I started growing microgreens. Was basically a simple shelving unit in my garage. At the time, it was a garage I was renting, and then I also have them in. This is actually years later, but this was in my kitchen at the house that I live now, and I was growing microgreens in the kitchen. It was kind of a year that I was in transition. But the cool thing about that is that the microgreens allow me to carry production even though even though I was in transition, I didn't have any crops going in the field, and I could still do some stuff. Like a unit like this can make, $500 to $1,000 a week. It just depends on how long you run your lights for, how much heat you've got. It's the amazing thing about microgreens is you can literally just turn up the dial, and that is very enabling when you want to get a production crop going and you want to start greasing the wheels with customers. And I've seen many times over, I have people in Australia and New Zealand, all over the US and Canada and parts of Europe that have told me this exact same thing. They said, hey, Curtis, I took your advice with microgreens. I started really small, producing 20, 50 flats a week, started doing more, started getting more customers, got some cash flow coming in, made my business cash flow positive. Then I took on some land, started farming some crops, started with some salad greens, started selling those, and they basically just ratcheted up their farm. And that's so cool about microgreens, that it allows you to do that. It allows you to start with something really quick. You can set something like this up over the course of a weekend. You can start your first crop, and you can get that crop happening within 8 days, and you could be selling a crop.
Yeah.
So
hey,
it's very empowering that way. But,
sorry about the technical challenges.
It's all good. You're back, and we made it work.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So microgreens are amazing because it's like putting a prototype out there. If you want to get a farm started, a veggie farm, you might have to wait 60 days for your lettuce crop But microgreens, you can control the environment and you can have a crop in 2 weeks. And you're going to be selling to the same customers, which would be restaurants, farmers markets, and then as you scale up, grocery stores. So it allows you to put a product in your hand and go build relationships, which is, anybody who's been involved in starting a business knows the most important thing is developing an audience and developing relationships with your customers. So microgreens are really the fast track to get your farm started. And then even better, it's a short time to grow. And it's also a very low startup cost, like Curtis is saying. So the reason that this is microgreens are really interesting because they're really easy to start. And so as a result, a lot of people will get into them. So the market can be saturated, but also you can find your niche in microgreens most often. Usually you can make it happen at a farmer's market, even if somebody else is selling there. Now, if there's already 3 other people selling there, then it might be saturated, but you can get started and then grow from there and then start growing in salad greens. But a lot of people, they grow salad greens. They've been doing a CSA, and then they kind of learn about microgreens, and then they start doing that, and they start doing 50% of their market sales in microgreens. I mean, it's something I never expected, but I've seen it happen over and over again. It's really phenomenal.
Exactly. I was just down at Steadfast Farm for the last week down in Mesa, Arizona, and they have a small setup like this. And actually, this is a shot of one of their shelving units that has, they have these bottom watering big flats that can fit 4, 10, 20 flats in that. And they do it all indoors. And they do minimum $500 a week in microgreens. Minimal infrastructure, very little. And so the cool thing about it too is not only is it a great way to start a business that might just be a microgreens business, and you can scale that simply by finding more customers and adding more infrastructure, or you can add it on to a business that's already existing. So you can have a market garden, and you might say, well, I'm looking to have some products so I can attend a series of winter farmers markets, and basically to keep some of my employees working throughout the winter, or keep some cash flow coming in. They're great for that too. And they give you that versatility. This is another shot here of a fantastic indoor operation just in Calgary, Alberta. It's right downtown Calgary. This is Vanessa Hanul, and her operation is called Micro YYC. You can check her out on Instagram, but she's just totally crushing it. And she's producing hundreds of flats a week, totally indoors, just a basic warehouse space that she rents out. And she's moving a lot of product. She's got employees. She's running this proper business. And it's so cool because Luke used to say this actually, that microgreens are a gateway crop. They're a great way to start, and you can kind of figure it out as you go. You know, like he said, you know, you get some production going, and then you refine, you build your brand, you build your customer base, and you grow it as you go. There's not a lot of business models that you can just start like that. Like you can literally start a business here producing 10 flats of microgreens a week. Even one of these shelving units, like one of these ones that Vanessa has here, she's got 16 flats there. So you can start with something like that. These shelving units you can buy at Costco. I've got one right behind me actually. $120 or something like that. Equipped it with lights. The lights she's using in here are the sun blasters, and they are just a compact fluorescent, but you can get LEDs if you want. I know the prices have come down a lot on LEDs, and it's very easy to start this stuff up. So what we do in this course is we basically show you all those details, like what's the soil you're using, what are the seeds you're growing, where are you selling them, how are you planting them, how do you harvest, all of these details from start to finish. Another thing we did in the course too, which is really cool because we want people just to get started with this stuff, is we put in this, it's called a quick start guide. So right when you start the course, we take you through on how you can start some stuff right now. So like you can join the course, and then we go, okay, we're going to start 4 flats of microgreens immediately. And then you're going to go through the course as these things grow, and you're going to start right away. Because like our whole thing is we want people to make a living at this. We want people to go out and either grow their farms, bring in more cash flow, or just start a business. Maybe it's about time you quit that desk job that you hate and start doing something that where you're growing and you're doing something that is more interesting or you're passionate about. And that's what we want to do with people. And we've got a lot of people in the course, and people in here are just crushing it, and they're running successful businesses. And so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone through the different scales, huh? Should we take a few minutes and go through and answer a few questions, and then I can kind of we can talk more about the course. And the whole goal, just like Curtis said, is basically if you're keen on starting a microgreens business, we have a whole step-by-step 5-week intensive microgreens growing and selling course, basically, that takes you step 1 all the way to step 10 of, how do you actually grow the crop, to how do you package it, how do you market it, how do you sell it, how do you manage your finances, what does it look like to actually start a successful enterprise growing and selling microgreens. And so we can talk all about that, but let's answer some questions, and then we can do that.
Yeah, so I'm just going back to the beginning on the YouTube questions here. I don't see any in the
Brian, just set up my shelving and lights.
Yeah, go ahead,
planting
Luke.
tomorrow. That's awesome. Brian, what are you going to be planting?
So question here, Julian Cartier is asking what days I'll be in Colorado. I'm not doing any like public events. I'm actually just going there to make videos for my membership website, and probably some for YouTube as well. So that's the reason I'm going there.
So Simanba
Thanks, guys. Lots of good stuff. Go ahead,
Simanba is it nice? How many kilometers would you say a microgreen farmer can be away from their market?
It depends on how much money you're going to sell. If you're an hour drive for $100 order is not worth your time, but an hour drive for $1,000 in orders is probably worth your time. So it just depends on the numbers. It just depends how much do you want to drive, and that's really all there is to it.
Yeah, and urban centers are going to be probably where your best customers are going to be. So you got to think about, how close am I to a major urban center or a significant one, and and am I close to multiple, and then do the math based on, what does it look like for you to go there and, go to 5 customers, go to 10 customers, say they're restaurants, and tour through there. So yeah, less than 2 hours ideally.
Yep. Question here, do microgreens have to grow indoors only? No, you can grow them outside. I've done videos on that. Talk about food grade trays and water filtration. Food grade trays are available if you want them. They exist. I don't know what else to say about that. Water filtration, I don't filter my water. It has a bit of chlorine in it from the city, but I haven't seen any evidence that that's detrimental to my crops.
That's such a common question, eh?
It's unbelievably common. I don't know where. I guess it's. I mean, I'm into conspiracy theories too, but I guess it's probably from people. It probably comes from concern about being poisoned by the government. And I think it's a reasonable thing to be concerned about.
Yeah.
But
and also chlorine is a sterilizer, right? Like it does kill the good bacteria in the soil. But the crops do fine.
I mean, it all comes down to data. I haven't seen anybody present me with real data that shows that there's less micronutrient availability in crops that had a bit of chlorine in them from the water than ones that didn't. So if somebody can provide that data, sure.
I know. All my experience says it doesn't affect it.
And most of it evaporates right away when you water them anyways. So some questions here. Best disposable medium, jute mats. We like soil, but you can use jute mats. I've got a bunch here, actually. I've been doing some trials with them. I got hemp mats too. So those things work. You definitely get higher yields in soil, though, I'll tell you that. All the trials I did, I got way more better, like almost double the yields from soil than I did those jute maps. Best business structure from Philippe, LLC or Corp. It's up to you. Probably for US, you'd want to be an LLC.
It's simpler.
Yeah.
Just do that. It's simple. John Jonah Jameson. So do you grow your first crop before finding customers? What would you grow first? That's awesome. Yeah, it's so
Absolutely.
easy to grow, and there is a bit of a learning curve growing these. It's not much, but you might as well get your first crop going, get your first, that way, if you get a sale, you can actually deliver it and produce another crop. Ideally, you've grown a couple crops, but grow your first crop and go get it in the hands and the potential customers. So that would be, starting out really simply, start with these 3 crops: sunflower, peas, and radish. And those are going to be your commodity crops and easiest to grow, very likable across the board, and just a great way to get started.
Totally. Somebody asking about a seed company in the EU. Ask Richard Perkins. He'll tell you. Where do you buy bulk seed? From Mums. We also have links to, like in our course, actually, we have discounts for some of the big seed companies, right, Luke?
Yep.
We've got.
Yep, exactly.
So
we've got one for Mums.
Valley.
Yeah, Sprouting. Yep, exactly. Mountain Valley.
So those are the seed.
If you know.
That's right. Yep. And how do you keep soil from molding? Well, this is actually a big subject in the course. But to summarize it really simply, it's just managing your humidity, temperature, and airflow. That's the main thing. Also using a soil that doesn't have fungus in it as well, and as well as a process of sanitizing your seed before you plant it. There's also ways to troubleshoot too. Like you can have a little disinfectant spray that's like water, vinegar, and hydrogen peroxide that you can spot spray. And we get into all that stuff. But that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah. John Jonah Jameson again. Do you wash your microgreens and how do you store it? Ideally, you can definitely wash them. The key when you store microgreens is that they're absolutely dry. Otherwise, they'll break down and rot faster, which is your biggest enemy with stored product because the shelf life can be short. So whenever possible, you want to handle them in such a way where they don't need to be washed, and then you tell your customers to wash them before they use them. But we have systems that we can show you a bit how to wash them.
Most microgreen growers don't wash their microgreens, actually. When I was in full production doing all these kinds of crops, like you see in the slide there, I only washed my sunflower shoots. We didn't wash anything else because it's all above the soil and it didn't need to be washed. And it actually it significantly decreases your shelf life. So it's up to you. But most microgreen growers I know, like even including Vanessa Hanul's operation there, she just cuts and packs right away. So that's up to you. And we show you those steps in the course, like how to wash them and how to pack them and what are the unit sizes of all the things that we recommend. Like what are unit sizes for restaurants, retail, farmers market, all that kind of stuff. We get into that. Somebody asking about permits and licensing. I always say this, I'm going to say it again. It's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission, man. And you don't, and it also depends on the state you're in. I never asked permission for any of this stuff. I just did it. So it turned out that I didn't need any kind of license for it anyways. But again, it depends where you are. The world's a big place. So every country, state, and even sometimes municipality has different laws with this stuff. But generally speaking, it's not too regulated. If you want to start, and mostly where the regulations come from are your customers. There's some restaurant customers that will insist you have to be GAP certified, and there's some grocery store and retail customers that will insist you have to be GAP certified, but many of them don't. Down at Steadfast Farm, they don't have any of that, and they sell to some fairly big commercial clients, and they don't have any of those issues. So it just depends where you are. Here's a funny question. Any concern about high-tech farming taking over, i.e. robot farming? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's happening. That's definitely happening. I don't know if it's a bad thing. I think it's concerning if we go a whole generation where nobody knows how to grow their own food. That is definitely concerning. But a lot of the technology I see in robotics. I've actually, if any of you guys are on my website from the field, I've got a really cool video coming up next week, at least on the 15th. What is that? Yeah, next Friday, about the future of agriculture. I was interviewed by a guy, sort of Silicon Valley entrepreneur kind of guy, who is kind of showing me a bunch of the future of agriculture technology. And it's pretty fascinating. It's just kind of a loose conversation I had with him, but we really get into that. I'm not worried about it. I think it's actually going to enable a lot more organic and get the food out to more people. So I think it's part of creating an abundant future that means things are more available to more people. So I think I'm optimistic about it, actually. Alexandra asking, are you still using trays from Paper Pot Co? Yep, I sure am. And in fact, I'll show you guys. We actually make our own flats now. So I'll have a video coming out about this, I think this week. But we actually make our own flats. These are made in the USA. These are, we got a mold basically, which costs a ton of money. But so we're making our own flats. They're food grade. They're UV resistant. They're made from recycled plastic. They're stronger than the Japanese ones. And they're cool because they have a little lip on the back of them, which allows you to use a bottom watering flat, which we have as well. One of these. So we make these things now too. So we have basically a nesting flat for all of our trays, and then these fit in there, and then so you can bottom water with them, and you can lift up that little lip, that little thing for your finger to water them. So yeah, I'm still using them, and I'm making them and selling them. So that's what those are all about. And those are bigger than a 1020. Those are an 1122. And yes, they're a lot more expensive than 1020s, but these you'll only need to buy once. These things will last a lifetime. They're very, very strong.
Yeah. Here's a good one. How do you avoid tough or chewy micros? And that's basically means, especially with peas, it means they're just a little bit too old. It means you harvested them a little bit too late. So next crop, harvest them maybe a few days earlier, and they won't be so stringy or chewy.
Anne is asking, she's on Zoom, what's your average profit margin? I mean, if you're just growing microgreens specifically, it's going to be pretty high. It's going to be at least 50%. I'd be interesting to ask a bunch of our students where they're at with that.
Yeah, we tell people to target at least 50%. That's the goal. You can definitely do more. The biggest thing is establishing your systems such that your labor is cut down, because you can expect your seed costs and basically cost to produce to be 20% or less. And then the biggest other variable is, overhead, but then just time that it takes to plant, water. Water doesn't take any time. Planting and harvesting are your biggest time consumers. And then, of course, marketing your crops. But once you get your planting and harvesting systems established, that's when your profit margin will come up significantly. And that's a lot of what we focus on the course, is helping you get your systems established, helping you be more efficient, and then also helping you really kind of expand your vision such that you know, okay, I need to expand in order to make this viable for me, or really look at what it is that's going to make it viable for you to, not just do this for a few months and get burnt out, or a year and then get burnt out, but to be able to actually sustain this and grow it for years to come. That's our real goal with this course.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody was asking about, do I recommend T5s or T8s? I've used them both. When I first started doing microgreens, in fact, this setup here, this was all T5s. They're the older ones. I think those are the T5s. And then later on, I upgraded to T8s, but not what, if you're just starting, whatever is cheaper. There is a Vanessa here. She uses, and actually, if any of you guys watched my video, it went fairly viral, the one with the microgreens growers in Airdrie, Alberta. They've got a similar setup here. They're using these lights called sun blasters, and you can just Google them. And that seems to be what a lot of microgreen growers are using. And they have, I forget if it's a T8 or a T5, but it's some kind of compact fluorescent, and they work great. But key is with all this stuff is you got to have airflow. You got to control your humidity. You got to keep it low or as low as you can. And you got to keep your heat consistent too. And this is one of the problems with greenhouse operations is when the temperature goes low at night, like if you don't have a really well insulated greenhouse or it's not well heated, that can cause problems too. It also slows down your production, but it can just stress your crop, and it creates some condensation. And so that can also give you problems with fungus. And I've had to deal with all that kind of stuff in the past because I've done so many different incarnations in how I've grown microgreens over the years, from in the soil and right out in the open, or in the soil in caterpillar tunnels, or hanging from rafters in my high tunnels, to indoor operations in a garage or in my kitchen or in my fancy greenhouse that I'm in right now. I've done many different ways of growing microgreens, and you can make any of them work. It's like anything though. I mean, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. So, but you can start really cheap and lean, and you can scale up as you get cash flow. Emily Knowles here is asking a really common question about sunflower hulls, removing the hulls. And, you know, it's kind of a multifold strategy. A lot of it, what it comes down to is growing. Well, for one is seed. You might have bad seed. That could be the first thing. If you don't have good seed, that's going to be it. The second is you might not have good soil, and you might need to use more soil. The third is you might not be watering them enough. I find that's often the case. And you know that when you finish the crop, like when you harvest it and you go to peel out your old flat, if those roots are sticking to the plastic of your flat, you know you're not watering enough. And so that could be it. Another one could be it's not warm enough in your greenhouse. So that's number 4. And number 5 could be they're not getting enough light. So there's 5 conditions there, and there might be even more. If you can meet all of those conditions and make them ideal, seed being probably the main thing, you shouldn't have those issues. But there's tricks you can do to troubleshoot it, you know, rubbing your hand on it. Certainly, we washed our sunflower shoots in our bubbler, and then we put them through the spinner. And then when they went on the drying screen, that actually got the last bit of hulls off. But even from the get-go, our sunflower shoots didn't have a lot of hulls, but that's because we did all those 5 things that I mentioned to get to that better point, so that anything after there is just being washed out. Another health regulations question. Again, depends on your state, depends on your province. These questions are impossible to answer because you just have to do some research for your own place to find out.
So we're running up towards 6 o'clock. So let's go through the course for a second, so everybody can get kind of this behind the scenes view of what's actually going on in the course, and we can answer questions about that. And then we'll open it up to all questions and hopefully wrap up at 6, maybe a little bit after, but hopefully right around 6. And we know everybody's hungry or needs a nap or whatever. So I guess I'll share my screen, and then I'll just take you guys through.
Okay, I'll kill my screen here.
Of what's going on here. Let's see if I can do this.
That share button right in the middle there, Luke.
Yeah, I guess I'll just share this. Can you? Let's do this first.
I'll just keep answering
Okay,
questions.
so you can see my web browser now, right?
Yep.
All right. So here we have basically right when you come into the course for the first time, and I'll show you, we've got basically 10 steps, 10 modules that we cover in 5 weeks. So the whole format of the course is it's a 5-week intensive. You've got access to the course forever. You've got access to the content forever, and there's a ton of video content, but we cover it in the 5-week intensive so that after the end of the 10 weeks, we've got you growing your first crops, reaching out to your first customers, developing all your systems, and we take you through 2 modules per week for 5 weeks total. So I'll show you, let's see what we've got here. module one, let's go back to this. Module one is all about creating your vision. So what is the vision? What is this ultimate system, this farm that you're going to create? What kind of products are you going to create? Sunflower shoots, pea shoots, radish shoots. What customers are you going to serve? Are you going to serve restaurants? Are you going to serve farmers markets, grocery stores, so on and so forth? How much are you going to earn? And so we want you to have an idea of that. We know it's not perfect, but the more you can really understand the different options out there and hone in on what you want to make, the better we can help you make that happen. So this is where we really want you to just start setting some goals, and we've got some exercises to do that. Then module two is all about knowing the potential crops. So we want you to know all the different crops that you could be producing: sunflower shoots, pea shoots, radish, arugula, basil. So the commodity crops, the herb crops, the specialty crops, we want you to be literate with those. And then from there, we want you to know your customers. So again, restaurants, farmers markets, grocery stores, distributors. We want you to know who they are and what they value with microgreens, because restaurants value them as a garnish, whereas say the farmers market customer, they value them as a snack for maybe their kids or a salad at home. So we want you to really be able to understand them so that you can serve them adequately, because the whole deal with growing this business is getting these customers and being able to serve them. So you really need to understand who they are. Then module 4 is all about preparing to grow, all about your infrastructure, what kind of setup you need, your light infrastructure, your shelves, all that good stuff. So let's get into this. So module 1, again, sample model, the overview of the tool, the model, I'll show you that in a little bit. Then module number 2, knowing your crops. Here's the commodity crops. Here's your herbs, a la carte. So maybe cabbage, arugula, bok choy, mixes, trials, so on and so forth. Module 3, getting to understand your customers. Module 4, preparing to grow. So your infrastructure, how you're going to store your seeds, where you're going to plant them, where you're going to soak your seeds prior to planting them for the seeds that need to be soaked, your germination area, post-harvest, all this good stuff. So I'll show you this post-harvest. So then this is what a unit looks like. We've got a video for you. We've got the video time stamped. We've got learning objectives. And then let's go through the video for a second. And so here we've got basically showing you exactly what it looks like to have a proper setup and get it dialed in. So then beyond that, we've got number 5, how to grow the crop. So we just talked about preparing to grow all your infrastructure, and then we get into all the details of sterilizing seeds, watering flats, bottom watering, all that good stuff. Then we go into module 6, how to harvest and package your crops, how to create mixes, how to pack, how to set up your cold storage system so that you can store your product efficiently, it doesn't go bad. Then we go into how to sell your crops. So we talk about your restaurants, we talk about farmers markets, talk about wholesale customers, talk about, so with restaurants, what does it look like to produce a fresh sheet? How do you pack an order? When's a good time to deliver, and what's the system for that? How do you get paid? How do you charge your customers? How do you follow up with them? How do you keep your customers forever so that you turn that first sale into a lifelong relationship with chefs in your town that love your product and are advocates for you? Then once you've made your sale, we talk about managing your money, okay? What is the key metrics we're gonna look at? What are the startup expenses? How much is it gonna cost to start this whole operation? Then we get into the crop profitability, and I'll show you, we have this whole Excel spreadsheet built out, and I'll show you that in just a second, which is what a lot of people's favorite aspect of this course is. Then we get into finalizing your plan. So you've gone through the whole course. Now it's time to really hone in on, okay, how much do I want to earn per week this year? How about next year? And 2 years from now? We want you to really dial in your sales goals so that you can see what it looks like to actually scale this business, how many customers you're going to need, how much how much you're going to be selling to each one of them every week, what crops you're going to be selling to each customer. So really doing the math and getting into the nitty-gritty, because the whole thing with any business, but especially this, is you got to be intentional. And so we want to help you set those intentions. And then module 10 is, again, refining your plan, and then all the details of what does it look like to actually start your farm. So we get into registering a business, opening a bank account, insurance, taxes, organic certification, and so on and so forth. So let me pull up this Excel spreadsheet and I'll nerd out on that for just a second. So I'm going to stop that, start this. Okay, can everybody see the spreadsheet?
Yep.
Curtis, you see it? Oh, geez.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so there's a lot going on this spreadsheet. And if I could just make it a little bit smaller. So basically, what we're looking at is the basics of this spreadsheet are just like we talked about. A sales goal, who your customers are, what products you'll sell, how much do you want to sell your products for, how many ounces of each product will you have to produce each week in order to hit your sales, how much can you yield from one flat, how many flats, so on and so forth. So we help you calculate your projected revenue, your overhead costs, your net income, and your profit margin. And then let's go into, so this is, I'll show you all these tabs, but the one I'm really going to geek out on is going to be your crop profitability. So the projected sales is basically you can establish your marketing period for each week. So this is each week, week 1, week 2, so on and so forth. And then you can plug in, okay, I'm going to sell these products, sunflower, pea, and radish. In week 19 at the farmer's market, I'm going to sell $225 of sunflower shoots, $200 of pea shoots, and $75 of radish shoots. So then that tells you, okay, I'm going to earn $500. And then you do that all the way across all your marketing weeks. So if you have a 30-week farmer's market, you plug those in, and then it sums it up right here. So then you can see, okay, based on my projections, I'm going to earn $16,500. So again, this goes back to being intentional. You know, it's one thing to grow some crops, you know, futz around with it, show up with what you got and sell what you got, and then stick the cash in your pocket and come back next week. And it's another thing to say, okay, I brought, you know, 30 clamshells of sunflower, 30 clamshells of pea shoots, and, you know, 40 clamshells of radish this week. And I'm expecting to earn $700. And then you come back and say, okay, I only sold this much sunflower, I sold out a pea, and I only need 30 clams of radish next week. And then you plug that in. And then not only next week is it better, but also next year, you understand exactly how much you earned. So actual sales, this is where you'll plug them in. So week 5, week 8, you say I made 700. Well, that's big excessive for sunflower, but 300, say 250, and then say you sold 200 of radish. So then you sold 750. Here's your sums. You do that the whole way. Then you have your production planner. This is going to say, okay, in order to go to the farmer's market and market my sunflower, pea, and buckwheat, corn shoots, shiso, I'm going to put these values in and then say, I want to sell $400 worth, $200 worth, so on this date, based on my price per ounce of $1 per ounce. Say it was $2 per ounce, just so you can see some values change. You can see over here, these are all the values you plug in. And then over here, it tells you, okay, based on this of needing $400 of sunflower shoots at $2 an ounce, say, or say just for fun, $150, I come over here, then I'm gonna harvest 16 ounces per tray. You plug that in. If you're getting better yields, even better. It takes me 14 days, then my seed needed per tray. And then it tells you, okay, I need to harvest 260 odd ounces. So that means based on my 14 days to maturity, I need to plant it on May 12th because I want to harvest on May 26th. I need to plant 17 trays. If I had a different yield, let's say my yield was only 12 ounces, I would need to plant 22 trays. And then how much seed based on my seed needed per tray. And we have values that you can plug in, but if you had different densities, you could plug it in here. So this is basically every week you say, this is what I want to come up with, and this tells you how to achieve it. So it gives you some organization for your intentions. Then we've got the startup cost. This is pretty simple. We got it categorized. Okay, consumables, seeds, we've got some tools, we've got some infrastructure. And then this can tell you, okay, I'm going to spend $2,000, $2,500, $2,700 to get started. And then this is just a simple calculator to figure out how much you're spending on your soil, if you're doing it per yard or if you're buying it by the bag of, 1.5 cubic feet or a cube at 3.8. Okay, now for the fun stuff. If you didn't like that data, you are gonna love this stuff. Oh boy. So this whole spreadsheet right here is each crop that you're going to, each product, I should say, because say this is, you're selling green pea, but you're selling it to a farmer's market and restaurant, and maybe you sell it for a different price. All your production stuff is going to be the same, but your marketing costs are going to be different. So I'm going to scroll over to the right here, and this is where things get good. So this is the data we want you to know really well. The big thing that we really focus on in this course is your key metrics. And one of them is your net income per flat. So we want you to know every single crop that you grow, exactly how much your net income per flat. So you have your revenue of saying, I sell it for $1 an ounce and I get 16 ounces per flat. So then that means I earn $16 per flat, assuming you sell it all. But then we want you to know what your costs are. And your soil cost, that'll probably be fixed. It might be about 10 cents if you're getting your soil for $50 a yard, or it might be more if you're buying it by the bag. Either way, we want you to know exactly what it is. And then we want you to know your revenue minus your cost. So the soil cost is one aspect, but your seed cost is the biggest variable in this whole equation. And we want you to know that. And so for that, we have this calculator. So how much you're spending per gram per ounce, which is calculated right here. So say you're buying your seed for $70 for a 25-pound bag. That's going to tell you what your seed cost per ounce is, your seed cost per pound. And then that factors in to say, once you know how much seed you're using per flat, to say, okay, $16 minus my cost, this is my net income. So then your net income per flat. So then that way, and this is where the data really gets fun, your net income per flat. So that's great. And then, then we get to factor in, okay, this is how much it earns, but what if one crop only take 7 days and then one crop takes 30 days? So they might look the same based on this value of net income per flat, but in all reality, they're a lot different because you have valuable real estate with your time on the growing shelf. So you want crops that have a high earnings per day. And this is for every day that you have your crop planted on a shelf or planted, how much it's accruing in value. So if this crop, say peas, is a total net income per flat of $13.85, that means for 14 days, it's earning every day, it's 99 cents, 99 cents, 99 cents. It's getting that in value until it's a total value of $14. But you might have another crop, say this pea, where you sell it for a much higher amount. And so then your earnings per day on that crop are $2.13. Or you might look at something where, say it's $1.07, or say it's 50 cents. So you think you're doing good and it's got a good margin, but you're out of space and you have to make a decision between two different crops. So then you'll say, okay, I'll choose the crop that's going to earn me 99 cents a day versus 50 cents a day per flat. So that's a bit out there, but that's how into this data we want you to be. We want you to really geek out on it, and we're there all the time, pushing you to know these numbers and helping you understand them. So I hope this helps you understand everything. And so on top of that, we've got the Facebook group, and we've got some different ways to communicate there. But basically, we want you to be accountable with the other people in the class, because we know half the reason that you take a course like this is to be accountable, to share your progress, and to work with other people who are on the same path. And so the community aspect of people sharing their progress within the first week, they're sharing their setups, they're showing what sales they've made, they're talking about their key values. That's where it really gets fun. So we meet once a week for 5 weeks and just talk through modules 1 and 2. But of course, the conversation goes to every question people have. And yeah, I hope that helps you understand the course. The course is $1,197 US. So for the 5-week intensive, you have the content forever. And if you have any questions, I'll pull up the chat and we can talk about it. So I hope I didn't bore you guys with all the data, but that's really, that's the big thing. We want you to really be intentional with how you go about starting your business, know exactly how much you project to spend on your startup costs, and then how much you project to earn, and what does it look like to do that. And so we want to help you be successful, even if it makes you be a data geek in the process.
Right on, Luke. I'm going to hammer through some of these questions.
Great.
I've been when you were going through the stuff, I was just answering some of them best I could just by typing in the chat. And so I got a question here from Merry Christmas 2.0. Curtis, if you had land to grow anything, what would be your top 15 items that would make you the most money? So the challenge with questions like this is there's so much context to them. Like it just depends. It depends on everything. Like I know a lot of the trolls on YouTube would go, ha, 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 why don't you grow weed? Ha, ha, ha. It's like Beavis and Butthead chiming in. But growing weed is actually not that profitable. The main reason is it's so regulated and it's really hard to get into the market. And I was just down in Arizona teaching a workshop, and I had 3 people that were commercial weed growers come to the workshop, and they're all getting out of the business because the regulations are pushing them out, and it's not profitable. Like in California, it is not profitable. If you're really big and you've got millions going in, actually on my flight down there, I sat next to a commercial grower, Canadian guy who's got a big multi-million-dollar operation going in California, and they're crushing it, but they got millions in investment. So I don't think marijuana is that profitable. Again, it is on scale if you're really big. It's a tough question to ask. I mean, what I've been growing for the last number of years on my farm have been very profitable. And for a market garden, the more I travel around the world and I see other market gardeners doing the same thing, then that tells me that what I've been growing and doing for the last little while has been working. And I think those things. So if you have my book, or if you've looked at my YouTube channel for any number of time, that's your answer there, really. I mean, because that's been my context. And so if you were to further ask me that, I could probably give you a better detailed answer. If you're in fromthefield.farm, I do those weekly Q&A videos. And if you gave me more context, I'd be happy to answer that in this week's Q&A. Next one here, Mr. Duffy. If you're busy farming all day, when do you sit down and do the spreadsheet stuff? Well, it's part of your workday. I always did it about 3 o'clock on Friday. I would sort out all this kinds of stuff at the end of the week when I was doing my invoicing and all that. So you build it into your workday. If your farm's set up right, you're not so busy all the time that you're doing this stuff like you're saying before bed or after dinner. No, you don't have to do that. If your farm is set up right, you build this stuff into your workday, and when you go home, you're done. At least that's the goal. We all start by making mistakes and kind of figuring things out, and we're maybe putting in longer hours at the beginning, but the idea is to get it to a point where you don't have to do it that way. What else here? Luke, this is a question for you. Somebody asking, can they use their VA GI bill to sign up? I have no idea what that means.
At this point, no, but we do want to get that going. So if you have any resources or contacts, we'd be all for it. I think there's some certain criteria. I'm not exactly sure what they are.
Here's another common question, probably the most, probably at least in the top 3. Hey Curtis, we've read your book. Wondering if the values of the prices are in US or Canadian dollars.
Yeah, US.
They're in both. Well, they're in US, but if you're in Canada, they're in Canada. So she's talking about prices that are in my book when I talk about prices. They're both.
Right. Because
the Canadian dollar purchases more or less the same as what it in Canada as a US dollar purchases the same in the US. So they're both. For example, down at Steadfast Farm, he's in Arizona. His prices of product he's selling in Phoenix are almost exactly the same as prices I sell here in Canada. So they're both. So don't get hung up on which is which. They're both.
That's cool. Check out Meat Hunter. I'm one of those cannabis to microgreen converts. Been on the weed growing business for almost 20, and I'm almost a year into my microgreens biz, and I love this way more and have more money in my pocket. That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, growing weed is, I mean, people think before it was legal, if you wanted to grow illegally, yeah, there was tons of money to be made. I've been up to some farms up in Humboldt County in Northern California before it was all legal. Those guys were making tons of money, but they were risking going to prison. So the gravy train is over for growing weed unless you want to grow it illegally. But I mean, it's so funny because I see that it's like growing weed. It's like, it's not really funny, and it's
the
not really
the black market's still just pushing it east.
Yeah, it is. It is. What else have we got here?
Yeah.
How do you sanitize seeds? I believe I've done a video on that. It's definitely in my book too. Just using per 1 liter of water, add 20 milliliters of food grade hydrogen peroxide and 20 milliliters of white vinegar. That's your solution. Soak your seeds in that solution for 10 minutes, drain and rinse, and then soak your seeds again for the night. That's how you sanitize seed. What's the best place to get fluorescent lights? Home Depot, probably. Lowe's, Amazon, if you want to do that.
If you're just getting started with the grow rack, just go to Home Depot to get 4 lights. It's so
get everything.
Yeah,
you can get everything at Home Depot. Yeah, thanks for all the positive comments, you guys. Any herbs like thyme profitable? Not for microgreens. I mean, maybe, but you're not going to sell a lot of those. So yeah, I mean, in this course, we look at how many crops do we have in there, Luke? Like
maybe 15, something like that.
Yeah, 15, well over 10. I know that. We try to show people to like how to grow the commodity ones. And if you follow my YouTube stuff, like I've talked about these for years, because those ones you can sell a lot of, but
yeah,
it's getting dark in my greenhouse. But there's all kinds of other types of growings, of microgreens you can grow. Like somebody's just mentioned amaranth, basil, cabbage, kohlrabi, mustard greens, red Russian kale. There's so many things you can grow. So it just depends on what your markets are.
Tracy's got a good question. How would you price different microgreens on the same table at a market? I think the best way is to make it really easy to buy for your customer. And at farmers markets, everybody's walking around with $5 bills, or at least that's kind of the unit pricing. And that's my preferred method, is just price everything at $5. And if it's a bit more valuable, do it, put less weight in there. But generally you're going to be doing the commodity crops there, peas, sunflower, radish, you'll be selling them about $1.50 an ounce, totaling a $5 product. So that's going to be your simplest method, because just make it easy for your customers, and don't be selling anything with like $4.37 or 50 cents, because just make it easy.
And at a farmer's market too, if you've got different types of microgreens, have the same price for a unit, but then the volume or weight of that unit changes. So something like I've got some broccoli here. Like I'm not farming commercially this year, but I still grow. I've been harvesting little bits of this, but I grow broccoli and pea shoots and radish shoots for my family. We do a lot of juicing, and we want fresh salads all winter, and they're so good for you. But like a broccoli microgreen like this is very puffy. So you could harvest, and you could fill a nice little clamshell type container and only have like 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces in there, and you could charge $5 for that. Whereas a pea shoot, like I've got back there, I used to sell at the market, I would sell a 5-ounce bag of pea shoots for about $5. So that would have been about $16 a pound. So the price will vary depending on how precious that microgreen is. Broccoli, they're a little bit lower yielding. They're a little bit more expensive to grow. The seed's more expensive. And so that's kind of reflected in it. But also a little goes a long way. And like some people have pointed out in here, they're extremely nutritionally dense. Like it's a superfood. So we try to eat about at least 2 ounces of broccoli microgreens every day. And we do pea shoots as well. Sun shoots are great too, to just grow for even at home. But so the commodity type ones, the pea shoots, the sun shoots, and maybe even the radish shoots, you would have heavier bags on at about the same price. And then these types of ones, you would have a smaller amount at the same price.
All righty. I think we're getting towards the time we should wrap it up. You want to get through a couple questions and then call it?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of questions in here people are asking that we've already answered, and people can go back and check it out. Yeah, I mean, and two guys, like I have a lot of content on YouTube. You can search, you can use the search on YouTube and just type in microgreens on my channel, and I've got a lot of videos out there. So people who just want the basics, you know, you might not want to join the online course. That's totally fine. There's a lot of free content out there that can just kind of get you started with some stuff. And this course is really designed for people who want to turn this into a business. It's very business orientated. If you want to just grow microgreens for home, just start tinkering. And I've got probably enough content on YouTube that you could figure that out and make your way through it. But if you want to get into a business and start making money, that's what this course is set up for. It's designed that we want you to make money at this right away. And so that's why we have the quick start guide. And so people can basically start growing stuff now and start turning a profit quick. And that's totally possible with microgreens. With very few other crops, that's just not possible. And so that's what this course is designed for. That's why it's priced the way it is. This is a business in a box. If you're going to start a business, $1,000 is nothing to spend on premium education that's going to get you to your end goal right away. It's not to say that you can't start a microgreens business and be successful at it without taking our course. Of course you can. But what we've done is we've cut out all the guesswork. We've cut out all the things you're going to have to spend time to figure it out to deliver you to your end goal quicker. That's the point. That's why these courses are as set up as they are. It's why they're priced as they are. So,
yeah. If you've got 5 weeks that you really want to dig deep and, meet with us once a week for 5 weeks and in the cohort and get in and get your plan, start building relationships with customers and get your setup established. It's pretty much a proven path. We'll be offering this course again in the fall. So if it's not the right time right now, we'll be doing it again in the fall. But if it's right now, we've already got a great cohort of folks established and really keen. And so the motivation is super high. So if you just need that extra kick of energy, being there and doing it with other people, we're here for you. So
yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mrs. Hammer 516. Appreciate that. One thing on the way out here, somebody's asking like, what's better, LEDs or T5s? It's what there's no better. It's it's up to you. Things like lumens per square foot, dude. You're thinking about it too much. You're just don't. Why are you worrying about that? Just get some lights and grow some crops, man. Like this is, we don't get into detail on this course. Like you need to put this many lumens on this exact crop.
Yeah.
This is not a scientific course. This is about a business plan to make you money and grow your farm.
This course is about helping you make it happen. That's what we want to do. Not be perfect. We want you to make it happen. And then you can refine. We give you the tools to refine and improve as you go. But just get out there and, get off the internet and make it happen.
Yeah, these kind of questions are great. I get it. But it's paralysis through analysis. It's just overthinking things that aren't really that important. So some of these questions coming in, what are your top microgreen crops? I did a video on that on YouTube, at least my top 3.
Hey, real quick, Pied Piper, what time of the day does the course run? Mondays, 5:00 p.m. Pacific time, but all the sessions are recorded, so you've got access to the replay. And then this other one, Meat Hunter, you've been doing this for a year. Tell us where your revenue's at, but we can absolutely help you scale it up. We've got experience with systems from $500 a week all the way up to 5,000. So I'm sure we can help you scale it if you want the help.
And then Mr. Duffy asking, how do you market? Or do you just go to restaurants? Yeah, we talk about a variety of different market streams. We talk about restaurants. We talk about retail. We talk about farmers markets. We talk about distributors or aggregators. There's all kinds of people and different types of customers that buy microgreens. And we cover most of what's out there, at least everything that would be somewhat common, we cover. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. And have yourselves a great night. And the course is open for just this week. So there's a link. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link right in the show notes there. Click that to go to the course if you want to sign up. It closes this week. So This is the registration is open from now until it's the 10th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Is that right, Luke?
Sunday at midnight. This coming Sunday at midnight. Registration closes. Next Monday, the course begins for the next 5 weeks. So.
Yep. So yeah, feel free to join up, and we'd love to see you guys in there. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Cool.